Imagine you were driving home. You haven't broken a single law. No speeding, no swerving. And then red and blue lights are flashing behind you. You think it's a traffic stop, but the officer walks up and says, "Step out, you're under arrest," for a crime committed 3 towns over that you've never heard of. Why? Because an AI system, one that you didn't even know existed, decided that you were a match for a pattern of life. And before you say, "I'm not doing anything wrong," hold that thought. I'm going to come back to it. So if the government could press one button and map your entire life, where you go, who you meet, what you search on the internet, do you think they would not use it? Because last week, a major AI company basically told the Pentagon, "No, we will not help build mass domestic surveillance of Americans." And the government response was, "Cool, we're just going to replace you." In the next few minutes, I am breaking down, number 1, the 3 words in any government contract that should terrify you. Any lawful purpose. Number 2, the biggest surveillance loophole in America, and it's not a wiretap. And 3, I'm going to give you the practical playbook to shrink your surveillance footprint without living in the woods. Now, if you like knowing the script before your freedom's on the line, please hit the subscribe button. Here is the headline. Anthropic, the company behind the AI model Claude, was in talks with the Defense Department about serious national security use. But Anthropic drew 2 red lines. They said, no mass domestic surveillance of Americans, and no fully autonomous weapons. And the Pentagon's position was essentially, we need the right to use Claude for any lawful purpose. Anthropic wanted those limits in writing, and Anthropic did not get it. The government refused to agree to those terms. Then Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth moved on, and the administration began phasing out Anthropic from government work. And yes, multiple reports are describing the Pentagon, Department of Defense, using Department of War branding under this administration. So when I say War Department, I'm not doing a bit. That's the label being used in coverage. Now, in 1 minute, I'm going to show you the biggest surveillance loophole in America right now. And it's the reason any lawful purpose is indeed a trap. Now, here's the plot twist. Almost immediately after Anthropic drew the line on no mass surveillance and no autonomous weapons, and they were dismissed, OpenAI jumped in and got a government contract worth a reported $200 million. Now, OpenAI is saying, hey, we have some limits too, but the reality is this is not tech drama. This is the blueprint fight over what the government is allowed to do with AI. So I'm putting my lawyer brain on. Any lawful purpose sounds safe until you realize what it really means. It means if we can find a way to make it legal or argue it could be legal, they want the option to use it. And Anthropic's point was basically the law has not caught up with what AI makes possible. So you don't want vague permission slips and hope everyone behaves. My favorite lawyer line of this entire argument is from Anthropic. If the limits are real, put the limits in writing. Now, here's the loophole. The government doesn't always need a warrant to learn your life, because the government can buy your data with your own tax dollars, right? Our own government has warned that commercially available information is exploding because of smartphones and the ads and the apps we use on those smartphones. And then even a data that is made anonymous can be made unanonymous using AI. Our own senators have released documents showing that the NSA buys Americans' internet browsing records, calling it a way to circumvent the 4th Amendment with a credit card. It's so bad that our own government has actually gone after brokers over selling sensitive geolocation data that can reveal visits to clinics, places of worship, shelters, and more. Where you sleep, where you go, how often you go. That's scary stuff. So when someone says, "Oh, I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't got to worry about anything," my response is, that is not a privacy strategy. That is a surrender strategy. Don't surrender. Quite frankly, when you read about this stuff, it's almost like the government watched Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And instead of being scared of the ending with that warship getting all that information, the government took notes and said, looks like a good idea. And that movie, Project Insight, reads your digital book, your associations, your patterns, and predicts whether you might be a threat in the future. And while that movie was a work of fiction, it's not sci-fi when the police can buy location data trails, artificial intelligence can cluster routines and relationships, and all of a sudden that maybe turns into a knock on your door. This is what modern surveillance becomes: preemptive security. where you're a suspect before you've done anything wrong. And do you want proof that this actually is happening? Well, there's a tool called Fog Reveal, and PBS has reported police use it to search hundreds of billions of location records from about 250 million devices to build what they literally call patterns of life. And this pattern of life information is available on the marketplace because they're turning data exhaust into surveillance, because apps and IDs become tracking infrastructure the government can use against you. Now let's talk about facial recognition. Accountability Office reports federal law enforcement agencies use facial recognition services and noted early gaps like staff using them without required training. And our own government even agrees that facial recognition is imperfect, and demographics and image quality can affect the error rates of facial recognition. And yes, of course, real people have been wrongfully arrested and held in jail over false matches made by AI. The key point, though, is AI surveillance does not have to be perfect. It just has to be confident enough to create probable cause vibes that can ruin your day, put you in jail, make you lose your job, and really mess up your life. And that's not even talking about general warrant territory. Let's talk about geofence warrants. That's literally the government says, give me every device that was near this place at this time. Now, geofence warrants are so controversial, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a geofence warrant case, Chetri versus United States. But there's also reverse keyword warrants, where the government literally goes to Google or Bing or whatever and says, give me the accounts of everybody that searched this term. Associated Press reports they're increasingly used and courts are still debating the limits. And AI is making all of that even more scary than it already is. It's already pretty scary, and they're making it even more scary because general warrants like that used to be very hard because sorting was expensive. It takes a lot of time for people to go through things. AI can make sorting cheap, so the dragnet becomes routine. And surveillance, well, is not always about catching criminals, it's about power. Research has found patterns consistent with chilling effects after surveillance revelations, like reduced traffic to privacy-sensitive Wikipedia topics. Additionally, reporters will actually engage in self-censorship because they're scared of surveillance. And the Supreme Court has recognized that forced disclosure of association can crush organizing. Look at the NAACP versus Alabama. So when you hear, well, it's lawful, remember, laws can change. Infrastructure is harder to undo. So what can we do to try to limit the government spying on us? Well, here's a playbook, and I got 3 layers. Layer number 1, reduce the data that gets sold. Kill background location for almost every app you have. Set location to never, or if you want to have some location on there, only while using. Also, if you have the flashlight app or the coupon app, you don't need tracking for that. You don't need tracking for the flashlight or for coupons. It might make it easier when you're in Kroger or whatever, but you don't need that. Also, don't be shy about changing your ID on these apps so that they can have a harder time connecting you to the app. Also, turn off location history. Why do you need to know that? Why does anybody need to know that? You know you're at McDonald's. Government doesn't need to know that. Layer 2, demand rules, not vibes. Support rules that restrict government purchase of sensitive location and browsing data without warrant-level process. And you want to push for transparency. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have any government ties, listen, a lot of this stuff happens at the city, county level. So when you see things like that happening, push back and fight against it. Layer number 3, if law enforcement contacts you, stick to the script. I plead the 5th. Don't consent to searches. I want a lawyer. The Pentagon-Anthropic fight isn't just tech gossip. It's a preview for the next decade. The government wants AI with maximum discretion. Companies want contracts, and the public gets the surveillance bill. Now, if you watched this far into this video, you must like me a little bit. I want you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave me a comment. You can tell me I'm overblown, or you can tell me, hey, listen, we shouldn't be worried about AI. The government loves us. It will never do anything bad to us. I don't believe that. Maybe you do. Hey, that's fine. Leave me a comment. If you can't think of anything about this topic to leave a comment on, let me know who I remind you of. Someone cool, hopefully. You know, I get a lot of John Leguizamo and Joe Pesci, other people. I think they're kind of cool sometimes. Whatever. But if you're facing charges in the great state of Indiana, be sure to give me and my team a call here at the Marc Lopez Law Firm. We would love to talk about your options. Our number is 317-632-3642. And most importantly, remember to always plead the 5th.